Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Aquarium Online Academy. My name is Sophie. I'm one of the educators here at the Aquarium of the Pacific, and I am not alone here in the studio. This is not a one woman operation. I am joined by my friend Talia, who is controlling all of the fun stuff you see going on behind me. Something else that's also very cool about her job is that she is monitoring a live text line that we have. So if you would like to communicate with us, if you want to share anything, make any comments, ask any questions, but honestly, just share anything. You are more than welcome to. And we have that number at 562 286 1838. That's if you are watching along live with us. It is 3:01 Pacific Standard Time. And then if you are watching after the fact, but still would like to get in touch, we would also love that as well. We'll just have a different method of communicating with us, and that is live at lbaop.org. So, again, a couple ways for you to get in contact with us, and we would love for you to share any sort of information you have, any questions, anything at all. We would love to hear from you, and we got two ways for you to do so. Okay, so if you are here watching this video, you probably already know what we are focusing on today. We are going to be moving and grooving like different animals in the ocean. But before we do that, I think it is important for us to warm up our scientist brains. And you may be wondering, well, why do we need to warm up our scientist brains? It's because you will be using them today. Even if you may not feel like a scientist, if you don't have one of those fancy white lab coats, even if you don't have a PhD or any of that stuff, you are going to act like a scientist today, and chances are you probably already have. Scientists ask a lot of questions, they make observations, which is just a fancy word for talking about things that they can notice or see with their eyeballs. And scientists also share a lot with others as well. It's very collaborative. They talk a lot with each other. And also, there is a lot you can do without necessarily needing a master's in physics or biology or things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and step off screen. And I want you to warm up those scientists' brains by making observations. Again, just a very fancy word for talking about things that you may see with your eyeballs. Now, sometimes a lot of experiments or a lot of big questions definitely start off by being observations. If you are ever curious about something like maybe an animal or maybe a phenomenon, something that's going on, you can start asking initial questions and start your inquiry just by making observations about it. So, if I am going to start making an observation, some of the things that I would notice are I see a lot of different types of animals in here. I also see a lot of different colors. I see a lot of different shapes. Now, some of the colors I may notice, especially kind of like a little close-ish to the camera, are I see a good amount of yellows. I see some yellow down here on this tail. I see yellow and blue over there on that animal. And I saw some yellow tails over here too. So definitely some yellow. What about other colors? Do you notice any like grays, any silvers, maybe any? We noticed blue, but I definitely see a good amount of grays, some silvers. Ooh, some fish that may have stripes on them as well. Now, when it comes to the different types of animals we have in here, we have a whole bunch of different types of fish. But do you notice any other types of animals moving around in here? Maybe ones that are a little bigger, ones that maybe are a little quicker. I am talking about some of our sharks here in this exhibit. So we have a zebra shark right now going by right there. Earlier, I saw some of our gray reef sharks swimming right in front of the camera. So you may notice a couple different types of animals in here. And you may be wondering to yourself, well, how do they all get along? And how come there's that many different types of animals living in one specific place? Well, what's really special is that the habitat we are looking at is a home for animals, also like a coral reef. So this specific area is very well known for having all sorts of different types of animals living there. Sometimes you get little tiny animals to maybe smaller and more medium-sized fish. And then also coming into those coral reefs, we may see larger predators like sharks. We also may see different types of animals like sea turtles. Those are a reptile, a little different than our fish. And sometimes you may also get different types of mammals or maybe whales and dolphins adjacent or surrounding some of these areas. Now, the next question I would like to ask you is, are these animals all moving the same? Maybe what parts of their body are they using to move? And again, if you want to share those with us and text in, or you are more than welcome to do so. But what are some things you notice about how these animals are moving? I know for some of them, for some of our fishies, I see them using maybe their little side fins right here, kind of going back and forth. But if we look at animals like our sharks, how are those ones moving? Are they flapping those little side or pectoral fins like some of the other fish are? What part of their body is moving the most? Look at, we have a fish coming up right here using its tail to move a little bit. And that is pretty similar to how our sharks will be moving as well. All these animals in here are moving a little differently, but we still see them moving or swimming around. But later we can get a little more into the specifics about how our sharks are moving around. So today we will be discussing all different types of ways that animals, especially in the ocean or near the ocean, are moving. And by doing that, we will also be grooving along with them as well. So first things first, I want you to think about yourselves as a human, because we as humans are a type of animal. We are mammals, kind of related to whales, dolphins, monkeys, dogs, cats. Not super closely related, but we have things in common with all of those animals. So when you think about yourself as a human, what are some things either on your body or inside of your body that help you move around? Think about it for a moment. I know right now I am standing on my 2 feet. Now, also standing on 2 feet is something that is special to us as humans. You may see other mammals maybe using all fours, like a cat or a dog. Now, what else do we have attached to all of this? We have a lot of muscles, we have ligaments, we have tendons, and a lot of those help support our skeleton or our bones on the inside of our body. So a lot of the ways that we are able to move is by utilizing the things in our bodies like our bones, maybe our muscles, things like that. Now, something that is very special about us and other mammals is that we have a very, very cool, big kind of bone running down our back. We have our spines. Now, that helps keep us all together. It houses a lot of really important things for our brain, but also helps keep us upright. Now, the reason why I am making such a distinction about us having bones is because there are a whole bunch of animals in the ocean that actually exist without any bones in them. And you may be wondering to yourself, well, if these animals don't have bones, how are they moving around? I just spent all this time talking about how our skeletons and our muscles help us move. So how are those boneless animals moving? Well, we will be able to take more of a closer look at that in just a moment. But there is something that I kind of want to show you. We don't have to go over to our document camera, but just kind of looking at this right here. I have a skeleton of a fish. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because not only will fish use their fins, their tails to help them move around, but they are also kind of similar to us in the fact that they have a skeleton, a nice bony skeleton on the inside of their body. Now, they may all look a little different depending on the type of fish, but their skeleton is kind of similar to ours. It has different parts, maybe a little skinnier, maybe a little longer. They have a nice kind of skull right here as well. So when we're talking about fish and other animals like sharks and rays have a modified kind of skeleton on the inside of their body, but a lot of these animals will have some sort of bones or something related inside in order to help them out. Now, any of those animals that don't have any bones in them, they are a type of animal called invertebrate. And they do have their own unique ways of moving. However, the one that I do want to start off with today doesn't maybe move quite as much. Oh, thank you, Talia. I know it's a really big word, but invertebrate basically means not having any backbones. For a lot of them, they may not have any bones at all. So there is an invertebrate that I would like to start off with, kind of like a warm-up. It is related to one of our jellyfish friends, which we'll also take a look at later. But I want to start off with our sea anemone. And let's make some observations about maybe what our sea anemone has on it in order to help it move, or if you think it moves. So, what are some things you notice about it? And some of the things you can use to help you like compare and contrast are if you think about the things on our body that help us move, maybe feet, maybe legs, maybe hands. And then if you think about fish, they may have fins, tails, things like that to help them move. So when you're looking at our sea anemone, do you see any of those things? Do you see any feet on them? Do you see any fins on them? Maybe what are some things that you do notice on the anemone? Colors are things that can help us with observations. I know we got a nice yellow there in the middle. Down here at the bottom, we have a sort of red color. And then all around the anemone, we have all those little things that maybe almost kind of look like spikes, but those are the tentacles of the anemone. Now, the tentacles, ooh, thank you, Talia. We see one of our anemones kind of opening back up. Now, this is about as much movement you will typically see out of an anemone. As you can tell, they're not really swimming around like the fish are. They don't really have any fins or anything like that. And that's because anemones are one of those invertebrates, which means that they don't have a backbone. And for anemones specifically, they don't have any bones in their body. They are mostly made out of water, which means that when you touch them, they are usually kind of slimy and kind of squishy to the touch. Now, anemones, they can move if they need to, but typically what they do is they use this kind of foot back here to attach themselves onto a hard surface, and then they just kind of sit there. They kind of sit and wait for things to come near them. And so that's when those tentacles come in handy. These tentacles, even though they look like they may be very fun to like roll around in, they are actually stinging. So if you have ever touched an anemone before, you may notice that it feels kind of sticky to the touch, and that's the anemone trying to sting us. The reason why they can't hurt us as humans is because their tentacles and the sting on their tentacles is a little too weak to hurt us. We have a lot of layers of skin on our body, and we're also a lot larger than the animals that they typically eat. So whenever we touch the anemones, they just feel kind of sticky. But if we were a smaller type of fish, we would probably get stung by them. So whenever I am thinking about moving and grooving and kind of moving like some of our animals, this one's always a good warm up. Now, we don't need to warm up our legs quite yet, but you will need to warm up your arms and your fingers. And the reason why is because we are going to be acting like the anemone tentacles. So like I said, they don't go after their food. They don't really hunt their food. They just kind of sit there with all of their tentacles out and wait for stuff to come near them. So let me see your anemone tentacles. Go ahead and wiggle your little fingers to make some anemone tentacles. Now, you can maybe stretch a little this way, maybe stretch upwards, maybe stretch a little bit to the side. And then once you are ready to catch some food, go ahead and, catch it. And then maybe close up a little bit and bring it closer to your mouth. Now that hole in the middle that you see right there, that is the mouth of the anemone. Something else that's maybe a little different or a little strange is that's also where it goes to the bathroom. It's a kind of simple creature. They have one entryway and one exit way. But luckily for these anemones, they don't have brains, so they may not necessarily know that that's kind of gross or kind of yucky. So that's what that hole in the middle is for. That's their mouth and helps them eat. So in order to move like an anemone, you're going to want to wiggle your little tentacles, and then when something swims by, you can catch it and bring it closer to your mouth. Nom 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 nom. Now something what's really cool right here is we are seeing a sped up video of an anemone kind of unfurling its tentacles. Now the reason they may close their tentacles up is when they have food. So they may close their tentacles up to make sure that food cannot escape. And then when they are done digesting, they may open back up a little bit. So that's our anemone, and that is one of our boneless friends, again, one of our invertebrates. Now this one doesn't move too much, but there is another invertebrate that we have queued up that does move a little more, and those are the cousins of our anemones, our jellyfish. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of our moon jellies, or just any of our jellies that we have. And we can see how those ones move. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so this one may look a little different than our anemone. We see it kind of in the middle of the water, so we know it's probably not attached to something. But what are some things that you notice about our jelly right here? Now, if you hear me using the terms jellyfish and jelly interchangeably, I am talking about the same thing. Just sometimes when we talk about these animals, We may not call them fish only because they're a little different. They're an invertebrate, so they're totally different than other types of fish. However, if you know them as jellyfish, we're probably talking about the same animal. So again, do you see anything like feet on it, or like hands, or maybe any fins or things like that? I believe I have a jelly model. Let me go ahead and find my jelly model over here, and I can better talk about it with you all as well. Oh, perfect. Here we go. Okay, so, ooh, thank you, Talia. Thank you, thank you. We have our moon jelly right there, too. And perfect timing, because I got one of my other jellies right here. So, the body of these jellies is kind of simple, similar to an anemone. They will have those stingers along the outside of this top part called the bell. And those stingers are similar to the tentacles on the anemone. They sting and they help them catch the food. And then these longer, lacier ones on the inside are called their oral arms. Those ones don't have stingers, but those are the ones that kind of help the food move a little bit more towards the mouth area. Now, jellies may not have a mouth and teeth like how we do, but they definitely have an opening to their body where the food will move in through. Now, do you see them using their tentacles to help them move, or their oral arms to help them move? Do you see them like attaching onto something and sticking, and that's how they grow closer to something? Not necessarily, right? Maybe not moving as much like an octopus that we may be thinking of using its tentacles to grab onto things. Jellies are also not the best swimmers, but I am not one to judge because I'm not the best swimmer either. And they cannot really swim against an ocean current on their own. So because of that, they kind of drift wherever the water or wind may be pushing them. But the one thing they can sort of do is that pulsing motion that we see. And I'll move a little bit more to the center so you can see the whole thing. I know this kind of looks like when we are imitating birds flying through the air, but it's also how our jellies will move. They will kind of open and close that bell, and that's about all the movement they can do. So go ahead and grow out your jelly bell with me, and then whenever you are ready, you can just move and open your bell just like this, just like our jellies are moving. Now, because of their very slow and very steady movement, a lot of folks that visit the aquarium often talk about how soothing and how calming it is to just watch the jellies. And truthfully, I agree. Now, if you ever want to utilize the calming nature of our jellies or the way jellies move, we have a live webcam powered through explore.org that you can visit either on our website, Aquarium of the Pacific, or if you go to explore.org and look at our moon jelly cam, or not moon jelly, some of our sea nettles, you'll be able to watch those moving live 24/7, just like how we have the live cams on them. So, if you ever want to just utilize this as well, you can. It is at your disposal, either on our website or on explore.org to just watch these jellies going by. So, even though there's a couple different types of invertebrates, they can still move relatively well. Now, there is one invertebrate that I'm thinking of that I would say is like the master of invertebrate movement. It almost seems like it has bones because of the way that it moves. However, the fluidity and the kind of squishiness and the ease at which it's moving its body will help us know that this animal doesn't have any bones. In fact, it is one of those boneless ones. And the animal that I am talking about is a fan favorite. I am talking about our octopus. So let's go ahead and take a look at maybe an octopus picture, an octopus video, and we can start thinking about what makes them really, really, really good movers. Now, I have an octopus friend right over here. And if any of you are familiar with the different parts of words, or if you are familiar with octopus, you will know that octo, that first part of that word, means 8. And when we talk about 8, we are referring to having 8 tentacles. So octopus is an animal that has 8 tentacles on it. Now, something that's different is the tentacles on the anemone, the tentacles on the jelly. Those were all stinging tentacles. But octopus don't have stinging tentacles at all. They have something else on their tentacles that help them move around. And Talia is getting us a very, very good clip of what those little special things are on the tentacles. Do you notice all those little circles on the octopus tentacles? What are those? And how do you think the octopus uses it? Well, what you are looking at right there are hundreds of octopus suckers. Now, not suckers like the lollipop or suckers like somebody that we may be insulting, but suckers like things that help them stick. So they have hundreds of those little sticky suction cups underneath their body, which gives it a very, very good grip. Right now, what you see is one of our giant Pacific octopus sticking onto the glass. Not only will they use their tentacles to stick onto different parts of their habitat, but they will also use it to grab food. And so they can grab things that even have hard shells on them, like a crab. They can maybe grab fish. I've definitely seen videos of an octopus on top of a shark. Not that it was trying to eat it, but it stuck itself onto a shark and maybe it was getting a free ride or something like that. But having 8 tentacles and having those powerful suction cups on every single one, well, almost every single one of those tentacles, means these animals have really, really good grip. Something else that's really cool is you can notice kind of like here in between the tentacles, some octopus and relatives have a lot of webbing. So some of those tentacles are like kind of loose and can do whatever, but sometimes there's a whole bunch of webbing in between them, which means they have extra ways to trap their prey that they may be wanting to try to get. Oh, here we got some of that webbing right there. Now, for octopus, when they're moving around, you can see they're kind of wiggly. They have independent, or they control each one of their tentacles on their own. But I want to show you something really cool about how their suction works before we start moving like an octopus. So one of the teaching tools that we use here often at the aquarium is we will use a plunger. And don't worry, this one's clean, hasn't been used. But the reason why we use this is because this is basically like a very, very big suction cup. And so we can use it, and in this case, I like to demonstrate picking things up with a suction cup. So here we have a little stool, not sure how much it weighs, but the way the suction cups work is I just press it onto the stool like that, and then look at it, I can pick it up. Now, usually it holds on for a second, but as you can see, the suction's raising a little. It may drop in a moment, but having all those really kind of little powerful suckers means these animals get a super, super good grip. And that was just a way to demonstrate by using one of our little stools that we have in here. Now, something else when we are moving like an octopus is we need to grow 6 additional arms in addition to the 2 that we may have. So we got our 2, and then go ahead and grow 6 more. Let me see, 1 over here, or I guess 3 over here, 4, 5, 6, and I guess my legs will be 7 and 8. So to move like an octopus is kind of similar to our jelly since they are boneless, but you can grab and stick to more stuff. So kind of like this. And then if you are ready to grab or stick onto something like maybe a prey item, you can go ahead and grab that. And I have grabbed a prey item of a lobster, which even though they have a hard shell on them, octopus are still able to break into that. So they can get a good grip on stuff, and then they can eat it. So that's one of our really fun movers. Octopus are very, very good at moving and grooving and having all those really awesome features like the tentacles, having all those suckers, make them a very, very special type of invertebrate. Okay, I think we have a little bit more time to maybe take a look at one of our sharks moving around. Earlier I said fishies may use, here I'll grab one of my fishy friends over here to show you. Fishies may use their side fins like this, or maybe they use their back tail, and they can use it to kind of power them, and they can use these ones to power them too. Now, different types of fish may move in a couple of different types of ways, but they will usually utilize those little side fins or that back tail. Now, sharks are a little different. Sharks have those side fins, but they don't really flap them up and down or go back and forth like this with their pectoral fins. They mostly use their pectoral fins to steer. So then you may be wondering, well, where do they get their power from if they use those side fins to steer? And this video will give us the answer. Pay attention to which part of the shark is moving. Is it the front half? Is it the back half? Is it the entire thing? Well, the entire shark is being moved forward, But if you look at that front half, it's not moving nearly as much as that back half is. And that's because sharks will use their back tail to power themselves through the water. Now, if you put your hands together like this with your thumbs up and then move your arms side to side, you have a nice shark tail. Now, if you flip it like this and go up and down, that's how whales and dolphins move. They will use their tails up and down like that, and sharks will use their side to side. Now, something else that's really special about these animals is that they can move and they can slide, well, not slide, they can cruise through the water very well. And that's because their bodies, instead of having the really heavy, dense bone that we have, they have the stuff that's in our noses and in our ears. They have cartilage in their bodies, which means they can be a little lighter in the water and usually move farther with less movement. So that's something that is very, very special about the inside of sharks' bodies. Now, I kind of want to end on a mammal, kind of want to end on a little bit of a silly note. And I would like to visit one of our, I feel kind of bad saying this, but maybe one of our less graceful mammals. Maybe if we can take a look at one of our seals, we can go ahead and end with that. End with how some of our seals move around. Okay, so hello, this is one of our harbor seals that we have here at the aquarium. Now, you can kind of see from this angle, but is this seal doing a full-on kind of push-up like how you may see sea lions standing up? Now, here, I will use my sea lion model friend over here. Oh, it's in the arms of an otter. So with our sea lion, you'll notice that its chest is kind of up. It's off the ground. It's able to kind of push itself up on these two front feet that it has. Now with our seals, they are a little more sausage-like. With that being said, they don't have those front flippers to push themselves up on like the sea lions do. So they are a little more sausage-like. Now, when they're moving around in the water, both of these animals do a good job at moving in the water. However, moving on land is where the sea lion may take the home advantage. Because seals, since they don't have those big front flippers, they can't really walk like how the sea lions walk. Instead, they have to do another movement called galumphing. And galumphing literally translates into moving in a clumsy or a silly manner. So let's say my arm right here is the beach or sand where you may see a seal hanging out. You may not see them super far inland or super far on the land, and that's because their movement is limited to this. It kind of looks like an inchworm, but that's their galumphing. They quite literally just kind of bounce themselves over the rocks, over whatever area they are trying to get to. Now, in the water, they move super, super well, but on land, they look a little different. So if you have space, if you have the room, I would like you all to try to galumph like a seal. It might be like an inchworm, so if you're good at doing the worm, you may be able to do that well. But let me go ahead and step off screen and see if I am able to. Oh, I'm going to hurt this microphone pack if I try to do that. But at home, do your best to galumph like a seal. Like I said, literally doing the inchworm like that. Not really using their feet, but literally doing the inchworm kind of like that. Now, whenever we watch our seals bouncing around, I always get a very kind of good laugh out of it because they look so silly when they are moving on land with that galumphing motion. But again, in the water, these animals move very gracefully. They will use their back flippers to help propel themselves, and they will use these front flippers to steer. Now, sea lions are the opposite. They will use their big front powerful flippers to propel themselves, and they will use these back flippers to help steer. So even though these animals kind of look the same, or sometimes look the same, and even though we talk about them sometimes interchangeably, the way they move on land is very, very, very different. But I always think ending or talking about how our seals move is very funny, because even though they look silly on land, they move incredibly well in the water. And that's not something many animals have the opportunity to do. Usually most of them have to stay in the water, maybe only stay on land. But for these animals that like to go out on rocks, or maybe move even a little further like sea lions, the one I have over there, it's always really cool to show off those adaptations. So again, my friends, we had a chance to take a look at some of our boneless animals, how they move our invertebrates. We got a chance to look initially at some of how those fish move around. We got to see how some of those sharks move around, and then we got to end on a very fun one. We got to, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Wait, Talia, thank you so much for getting this. You are magical. Everybody give it up for Talia. Okay, this is a better video than I possibly could have even dreamt of, because look at that galumphing. Look at that jiggle to them. They have a lot of blubber in their bodies to help protect all their internal organs when they're doing that. So they look super silly when they are moving around. And so being able to see that galumphing was a very awesome note to end that on. So thank you again, Talia. All right, my scientists, so we got a chance to look at all sorts of ways animals move. We even got that bonus treat at the end with our seal galumphing. So once again, if you are watching after the fact and there is anything you would like to share, maybe you want more information on seals galumphing, you are more than welcome to email us at live@lbaop.org. So once again, thank you all for joining us. Thank you for learning a little bit with me, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you all.